So, in this session, we're going to talk about how to work through fear on actually holding your team accountable and having difficult conversations. So, first and foremost, difficult conversations are unpleasant. And no matter how well versed you are at them, we're all human. We get anxious, we have feelings. It may not feel natural at first, especially if you dread discord, but you can learn to definitely work through these tough talks by reframing your thoughts. So some of the reasons why we don't like to have difficult conversations is one, we dislike confrontation. We don't like to hurt people's feelings. We're worried about the impact the conversation might have. We're worried about the repercussion of the conversation or the outcome of what will happen after the conversation. We don't want to rock the boat. And of course, we're afraid of rejection, especially when it comes to the thought of losing a stylist. However, if you have a situation that requires a difficult conversation and don't have it, and the things don't get addressed, it can make life way more difficult for you and for others. Some of us avoid putting ourselves in a situation where we have to deal with uncomfortable emotions, and as a result, avoid difficult conversations. There may be an internal battle going on between avoiding and confronting. If you avoid the issue, the situation may get worse, and you may get more frustrated, and you may resent, and then it will turn into a reactive conversation or an outburst. And we don't want that to happen. So challenging our thoughts and beliefs, rationalizing them, and looking at ourselves and the situation from a more helpful or a more non-emotional perspective helps to change how we feel and helps us become less anxious. When we do this, it's easier to change how we act and how we behave, and it helps to make what we need to do feel less fearful, especially when we remove the emotion and just think about it in a logic way. So we need to develop awareness of how we respond to stressful conversations. By being aware of how you respond to a stressful conversation or the thought of having one, we enable the ability to manage our emotions and reframe things. And then you can approach the situation more rationally in an adult state and have an adult to adult conversation. So we want to ask ourselves, what feelings and emotions are invoked for you when it comes to having the difficult conversation that you're having or that you're finding challenging? What are your thoughts and beliefs about yourself, the situation, and the other person, and what will happen? And how can you reframe things so that you will have a more helpful or a more productive or proactive perspective? We need to ask ourselves the questions below and reflect on our answers to help achieve this. Who are the people that I am fearful of having a difficult conversation with, and what are the circumstances? What do I believe about myself in those situations, and what will happen if I have a difficult conversation? What effect does having this belief have on me, and what is the effect of not having the conversation? What is the worst thing that can happen about having this conversation? If it was to happen, what could I do? And what proof do I have to support my beliefs about what will happen? How is thinking this way going to help me? What is the best thing that could happen if the difficult conversation goes well? And what proof do I have that the best possible outcome won't happen? What advice would I give my daughter, sister, niece, best friend to help them work through having a conversation like this if they were in my situation? And how can I apply this advice to myself? What is a more helpful perspective to have? And how will I approach the thought of having a difficult conversation moving forward? So by getting into practice and examining our thoughts and beliefs, it helps us increase our self-awareness. And self-awareness is so important to handling difficult situations. And of course, how and when they are hindering us, this will help us adapt to a more helpful perspective, and it will help us overcome fear. What difficult conversations have you been avoiding? And ask yourself these questions around those difficult conversations.